Welcome, Friday Night Fight fans, to our Friday night panel. We're working a skeleton crew today. It is Good Friday, so unfortunately, you're stuck with just myself and Big Mike from Knuckle Up with Mike Orr at 4 tonight.
That's it, man.
Welcome, Mikey. Welcome, Mike. Always a pleasure to see you.
Yes, you too, Christian. Welcome.
As usual, I do have a bit of a history tidbit. I found a weird fight for us to get started off with here, so I thought I'd do a little bit of a history lesson here, and then we can get into this weekend's cards. Sound
Sounds
good?
good. Sounds good. Let's do it.
Cool. So this fighter I want to talk about, a little fighter by the name of Jack Dempsey. Now, I know what you're thinking. Didn't we just talk about Jack Dempsey last week? And wasn't his name even mentioned in passing? Maybe even the week before that? Seems like we're talking about this guy a lot. So most of our fight fans will know the name Jack Dempsey. But what few people realize is that the world heavyweight champion from 1919 to 1926 actually took his name from an earlier Greenpoint middleweight world champion boxer by the name of Jack Dempsey. And that's who we're going to be talking about today. Now, this first Jack Dempsey would later be known as Nonpareil Dempsey, which means without equal, in deference to there was unbeaten streak, and to the fact that just to keep him and the other Jack Dempsey separate in the mind's eye. So Nonpareil Dempsey was one of the first great scientific boxers, and is still considered one of the greatest who ever fought. So Jack Dempsey, the original, was born near Curra in County Kildare, Ireland, on December 15th, 1862, and his parents brought him to New York as a child. Little is known of his early career in those tough, early bare-knuckle boxing days. He was originally born, though, with the surname of Kelly. His father passed away, and he took on the name of his stepfather, Dempsey. In a Brooklyn Daily Eagle old timers column, one Greenpointer remembered that Dempsey's mother raised dairy cows in Greenpoint, and Jack Dempsey would sell the milk around town. He would later get a job in Williamsburg at a barrel factory, where he became good friends with another Irish-born boxing champ, Jack McAuliffe. Now, they were often the other person's corner man, and Dempsey actually would go on to teach a lot to McAuliffe, who would have a pretty distinguished career himself. So Dempsey started fighting as a lightweight and eventually won the first middleweight champion of the world, even though he had at no point in his career did he ever weigh anything heavier than welterweight. Now, he often would go on to defeat fighters that were, far heavier than he was. So Dempsey was not the typical pugilist. He was handsome, he was well-spoken, he was mannerly. Dempsey was also personable and made friends easily. And on most occasions, after trouncing an opponent in the ring, he was calm and rather indifferent towards the praise being heaped upon him. Perhaps his greatest weakness as a fighter, though, was his inclination to drink too much and underestimate his opponents. The result was that he would sometimes, he wouldn't train well. He would undertrain for fights. However, he would usually overcome this with just, pure, tenacity, and he would just absorb punches. Physically, he was slender, he was muscular, he was quick, he was agile, had fast hands and a stiff right-hand punch. He was crafty and elusive and utilized feints accompanied with sharp, accurate left jab. Now, fight after fight, his opponents were leaving battered and bruised and cut, while he would walk out, with barely a mark on him. 158 pounds of strength, strategy, and grace is speed and chivalry is what he was described as. The Nonpareil of the ring. Nat Fletcher tells a story of a private fight that Jack was in with a 6 foot, a 6-footer who was much larger than him. Fletcher saying that Jack was, cat quick and danced around and poking him every once in a while with that wonderful left until he just wore the other guy out and he fell over. The battling again. So the battling Irishman took place in a lot of unique contests. Okay,
I'm surprised it didn't take place in a pub.
Wait for it, buddy. Wait for it. You wishing for pubs here.
Yeah.
So he took part in a lot of weird and unique contests, but the strangest of all was his encounter with Johnny Regan. Now, this took place on the 13th of December in 1887. Now, this meeting was the climax of a much ill-advised bitterness between the backers of both of these fighters. So this is where the promoters got in and made things messy. The ring itself was a dock of an old barge in the Long Island Sound. And the test was supposed to be a fight to the finish with bare knuckles. 14 rounds had been fought under London prize fighting rules when the barge, which had been securely moored to two stakes, began to become partially submerged with the rising tide. So this strange ring was then cut loose and towed out into the Sound, so into the water itself. So now we're floating here. Both principals are about to resume fighting when a squall struck the ring, and heavy snow shower covered the deck of this floating rig. So a truce was called at the time, and the party went ashore. Somebody remembers at this point in time an old boathouse about 20 miles away, and 20 miles away, and a heavy trudge through driving snow brought this group of people, the fighters and the backers of everything, to a much more cheerful surrounding. They're in the boathouse. An obliging landlord put out some hot drinks for them, and then the men were soon back trading punches with onlookers sitting around a bar and shouting advice from between drinks. All seems quite congenial at this point in time. Another 16 rounds and almost an hour of fighting later were finished off when word came that there were a couple of policemen down the road. Disdaining heavier clothing, the fighters plunged off into the woods, and their followers found them a clearing somewhere in the snow. Now, at this point, Dempsey and Reagan fought to a finish in the 45th round when the referee finally called time, but Reagan was unable to continue. Now, it was the end of over 4 hours of heavy punching with on almost, remember, this is a bare knuckle fight. Almost anything goes back in these days, except, so that's with the exception of biting and kicking. So, no doubt some of our present day champs would look rather sheepishly at the prospect of a 4-hour mix up with a 20-mile walk just in the middle for a breather.
Oh my God. And fighting on a barge at that much, right? Like, wow.
Well, remember, this thing started off being tied off to a dock and staked into the river. And then as the tide came up, all of a sudden the water started coming up over into the ring. So they cut it loose so it would float properly out into the water when it got stuck by a snow squall, and everyone almost went into the water that way. So then they bugger off 20 miles down the beach only to get broken up by the cops. So they end up fighting bare knuckle in a field by the end of it.
That's
again one of the weirdest fights that I've ever come across.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. Well, that being said, I guess now it's time to move into the cards this weekend, right?
Well, I'm only aware of the one big card happening this weekend. What else you got for me?
The Herring Frampton card's happening, but before that, let's talk about we had the champ Zab Judon. It's the launch. It's the launch of his celebrity championship boxing tonight, actually, or on the 3rd. Sorry, on April 3rd. It's got a good undercard. It's got a few. It's got about four fights on the undercard. Undercard starts at 8 o'clock. You got Bowen versus Jenner. You got Holden and Kut and Mouse versus Crispin, Fletcher versus White. And then we get into celebrity matchups where you have Blanca versus Blanca Lafina, Razby versus Young Steph, Avria versus Left Cheek, and the main event is Don Bishop versus Slap for Cash. And it can all be watched on Fight TV. And that's our, we've had Mr. Zab Judon, a champ, and it's the launch of his new boxing league, CCB, Celebrity Championship Boxing. Guys, make sure you check that out. We support the people that support us, so definitely we're gonna push that. But the big card this weekend, man, is the Herring Frampton, and that's gonna be good, man. That's history will be made.
I was actually wrong. There are 2 cards this weekend. I was incorrect. There's the Dubai card, which is the Herring Frampton, but there's also Eddie Hearn's Matchroom in Uzbekistan, coming from Tashkent in Uzbekistan, where the WBA and IBF super bantamweight titles are on the line.
Yes, I was going to talk about that card as well.
Sorry, I'd forgotten that one was happening. Sorry, don't cut you off, Mikey.
So history will be made because this one in Dubai, Herring is putting on his WBO junior lightweight world title on the line against Belfast former 2-weight world champion Carl the Jackal Frampton at Caesars Blue Waters, Dubai. This will be Dubai's first world title belt, and if Frampton is victorious, he would become the first Irish boxer to become a 3-weight world champion. So there's a lot of big things happening on this card. It's gearing up to be really, a really good card, I think. You got McKenna versus Turov for the junior welter belt. You got another, not bout. Then you have Pagera, but his opponent hasn't been determined yet, still to be announced, and that's a junior featherweight match. And then we got Nitis versus Carrillo for
Carrillo. That's the other one. That's probably the most interesting one on the undercard. If you ask me, is that particular? Yeah.
It's gearing up to be a good event. We're gonna see a lot of bashing around here, man. I hope to see some big knockouts, definitely. But yeah, that's gonna be a good fight. I'm excited for it. I believe it was who was it that said
Nitas hasn't fought in 2 years for that undercard, by the way. Nitas hasn't fought in like 2 years. So
yeah, and I also heard rumors that somebody's gonna retire if they don't win. So.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens in this card to come, which I'm gearing up to watch. I can't wait. It's gonna be exciting. There were a couple of cards that I watched over the last 2 nights. One was in Sinaloa. The other one was I believe in Argentina. I'll get to those on the weekend when we do the recap show, I guess. Well, actually, no, it'll be Easter Sunday, so we probably won't be doing that recap show.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have to take this week off for that one. Actually, I was surprised.
We'll see what happens. But all the fans out there, they'll hear the outcome of all of it, no problem, for sure. And then there's the that next card, the matchroom card, right? I'm not sure.
It's coming out of Tashkent in Uzbekistan.
Oh, okay.
Just today, the AIBA, I know you don't necessarily follow the amateur stuff as much as I do, but
right.
the International Amateur Boxing Association announced just yesterday that they're using Tashkent, where this card in Uzbekistan is taking place tomorrow, as the location for the men's World Boxing Championship for 2023.
Okay.
Big international tournament headed for the same city. They just announced it today.
Well, then I guess Uzbekistan's got a bunch of stuff going on, eh?
Oh yeah,
should turn out to be a really good one. There's also another fight card happening in Sinaloa, Mexico again. Excuse me. That's going to be a big card. It is televised on USA Fight TV. That's the Lester Martinez and Gabriel Lopez card for the vacant WBO Latino middle title. And that card's going to be huge, man. It's gearing up to be pretty massive. There's about 8 fights on that one as well. So, there are a lot of fights going on around the world. There's those guys down in Mexico, man, they really bash it out. I did watch one of those fights last night. It was a small little event, 3-card fight, and I'll tell you, it had me on the edge of my seat the whole time, man. These guys really know how to go to town and really smash each other out, so it's gonna be an excellent event. I know that. I'm excited for it for sure. We also have another event happening down in Atlanta, and one of our gentlemen that's been on our show is definitely going to be on there fighting. I hope we can definitely get some it's Amari Jones' debut. We just did an interview with him this week on Knuckle Up. He's debuting against Albert Delgado. I hope we can get the viewership for this, man. I definitely want to see it. We got to support, our people that we had on the show. It's going to be a great event. I'm excited. Christian, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to these cards that you're excited to see.
I'm curious what your thoughts on last week's cards. I haven't heard you weigh in on what happened last week.
Well, I watched a few of them last. Any particular card that you want to talk about from last week?
Well, the big one, obviously.
The big one, obviously. Which big one would that be, Christian?
You're talking about Povetkin.
I know. Honestly,
you had some thoughts going into that fight. I was curious what your thoughts afterwards now are.
Honestly, it was a good fight, man. It was a good fight. I enjoyed it. White. Oh man. Honestly, I've never
needed that. He needed that. There was no walking away on that one for him. That was going to put his career back like 3-4 years at his age. What, he's 33? That probably would have been the end. He wasn't going to see another title match, title shot.
But here's the thing now. Right? Because of all that's going on in the heavyweight world, with this is the year of unifications, right? Everybody wants to unify something. We're looking at Joshua and Tyson are tying up the unification match, but we got all these guys sitting in the background now, just waiting for a fight, right? So like White, now that he's won and beat Povetkin, he's got this chance to fight for a heavyweight championship, and they're all tied up. So we're gonna see what's gonna go on with him, man. Because honestly and truthfully, you know, we need this Tyson Fury and Joshua fight to happen so that we can get a lot of people that are sitting and waiting to have those title shots against the heavyweights, man. And the longer it takes, the longer that these guys are sitting around doing nothing, and it's just tying everything up. We just need to get these fights done, man. But honestly, that Povetkin and White fight, White, yes, he came through. He needed he needed that win. I've never seen a man swing for the fences so hard in my life, to be honestly. Like he was swinging like he was trying to take his head off, which was leaving him open for that vicious uppercut that Povetkin throws.
He got lucky a couple of times on that one, actually.
Yeah, he did. He missed getting knocked out a few times, man. And that was a big fight, man. And honestly, yeah, that was the big fight of the weekend. It was great. I loved how it went. Povetkin just looked like he kind of gassed out near the end. It's just the way it went.
So we've got someone here wants your thoughts on a couple of fights here coming up on the 10th there, Mike. I don't know if you see those on your screen. Because one of those fights, that first one that's mentioned there, is going to be the scheduled for the 10th. That's the IBF World Super Flyweight title coming up on the 10th between Jonathan Javier Rodriguez and who's that there? And Herwin and Saras. Well, in Kajas? I don't know. You know me names.
In Kajas? Yeah, I guess. You know what? Honestly, it's anybody's game for that fight. I don't know. I'm not too sure who's going to win. I'm definitely going to be watching.
You haven't done the research on that one yet?
I haven't done the research on that one yet. It's I've been researching so much. I haven't even gotten to the 10th. We're only at the 3rd. I'm definitely going to check that card out for sure. There are a couple of matches on there that interest me, but I will definitely look into this one. And you said that's for the IBF?
IBF, yeah. That's the IBF World Super Flyweight title going up on
the
10th.
I from the rumors I've heard, it's going to turn out to be a slugfest. That's what I know. These guys are both great athletes. I don't know too much about them yet. I haven't done too much research on them, but I know that these guys, they do have the heart, and they do have the drive and the stamina and the ability.
Both fairly new guys, both fairly newcomers, both sitting on 22 wins, 23 wins apiece, kind of thing. So we're not looking at super long careers yet. But okay. So definitely you're gonna have to do some work on that winner, because we've got Naruto here wants details on that fight, and you're gonna have to give them to him before that fight happens.
I definitely will. For our viewer watching out there,
make him that promise that you're.
I promise you, I will look into this fight. You can definitely tune in to Knuckle Up before. I will talk about this. If we do the Sunday show, I will definitely be talking about it on Sunday. Just, make sure you stay tuned in. We'll definitely look into this card. We'll look into that fight for you. And I'll give you my thoughts on who I believe is going to win that one. So, you know what? That being said, really, it's Easter. It's Good Friday. It's 7:22. I don't know where your children are. I don't know where mine are, but
you probably should. Okay, so you should go look into that. You should look into that, Michael.
Yeah, I probably should. Anyways, yes, again, what a great Friday. Great panel. Fight fans watching, thanks for joining us live here at the panel on talkinfight.com. We love to see you. We love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in and watching and commenting. We love that. Again, jab that like, hook subscribe, knock me out some comments, and we'll see you next Friday for the panel. Christian, thanks again. And
hopefully we'll be back up to a full crew for next Friday, and
yes,
we'll get
we will.
Going.
And a lot of appreciation goes out to our producer in the back end there. Nobody knows all the work that he does for us and all the crap that he puts up with. Thanks again for coming out on Good Friday to make our show just as great as it always is. Thanks again, buddy. To all our fight fans, we'll see you next week on the Friday night panel, man.
Have a good night.
Yeah, man. You